Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is James, and today we're taking a look at the 2020 BMW Z4 S-Drive 3.0i. That's quite a mouthful. Let me just take a look at my notes here. We've got the Turbo 4 that's like in every BMW product these days. We've got 255 horsepower. Now those are BMW horsepowers, which means that these engines are often underrated or they have torque curves that make them feel a lot more robust than the horsepower numbers would indicate. This particular car is the Sportline in white, and we've got the 19-inch V-spoke ferric gray wheels. They look great, and this car's got the Cognac Verasca leather. That's this stuff. It looks pretty good. I think it looks a little bit like a Frappuccino, like in the glass bottle that you can buy at 7-Eleven. No vegan leather or Sensitech here. This is a premium cow butt that we are sitting on. This car also has the interior lighting package. We've got these strips of light on the dashboard and on the doors. I like it at night. It gives this car a more premium kind of nightclubby feel, but not over the top. Let's crank up that ambient lighting so you can kind of see it glowing there. Maybe we can change the color to suit the mood. Down here we have this storage compartment, which is very handy. This is where I can plug in my phone mount wireless charger thing, and you can put your phone here. This iDrive system is pretty nice, but I mean, I like the wheel. It's very clicky, very nice to use. It feels responsive. Then we have the shifter here, which is fine. But it doesn't feel quite as solid as the old systems, where when you put it over to the left and then back to the right and pushed it up, it felt really nice. We have yes, your center console with cup holders, and if you're using the cup holder, you can close this side and it still works. That's pretty clever. So that way the driver still has an armrest. There's all my junk. We have frontal collision mitigation, lane departure warning, steering intervention. That means if it thinks that you're drifting out of the lane, it'll steer you back in. I found it to be pretty forceful and pretty smooth, so that's good. But I would still turn it off. This being a BMW, I don't signal when I change lanes, and it thinks that I'm drifting out of the lane. It's kind of nice that you can have the individual mode, right, instead of just all on. So that's a nice touch. This is wireless CarPlay. It's really fast, really snappy. Apologies for this unseemly wire. Here we have the climate controls, dual zone, which is great, especially in a soft top like this, where there's not a lot of insulation. You can, if the sun is on the right or the left side of the car, one side of the car could be a lot hotter than the other. Either that's a very strange Toyota back there, or this is a very vertical backup camera. I'm 5'6.5" or so, and I could find a seating position that works for me basically right away. Sometimes when I get into a vehicle, it's just, I feel like I'm like perched on it, especially at my height, but this car feels fine. It feels really comfortable. Oh, and right here we have a ski pass-through. It leads right to the trunk. Very practical for when you want to take this car to the slopes. All of this comes in at about $53,000. Let's take this thing on the road and see if it's actually worth that. The first thing you'll notice when you take off in this car, I think, is the powertrain. I mean, for a four-banger, man, this thing is really good. It's really powerful. Oh, and we have a crazy Ford Explorer coming on the other side. Yeah, and we've got the ZF 8-speed transmission in this. It's a torque converted transmission, but probably the best in the business. It's really, really good. It combines kind of the smoothness of a torque converted automatic with the snappiness of a dual clutch, almost. You got really meaty torque curve. It's also really responsive. There's a bit of turbo lag, but very little. I'm actually really pleasantly surprised by this engine, and it doesn't feel like it really runs out of steam up top. Plenty of power for most of us, unless you want to be an absolute hooligan, and if you do, then get the Turbo 6, get the M40i. In this car we have 4 different driving modes. You have Comfort, which is kind of standard, Eco Pro. On the dashboard, instead of Attack, it tells you your MPGs, which is kind of fun. Then we have Sport and Sport Plus, where everything kind of sharpens up. You also have Individual Sport, where you can also program things the way you like it. So let's take a look at what actually gets sharpened up. Steering weight is a little bit heavier in Sport and Sport Plus. The engine throttle response is a little bit sharper, and the transmission shifts a little bit more aggressively, as well as hangs on to higher revs. It's not so eager to upshift when you're in the sportier modes. And also, when you're in the sportier modes, when you really mash on the brake pedal, what actually will happen is that it'll downshift in preparation for you to take off again. In addition to the drive modes, we can actually put the shifter to the left, and that puts the car into sport mode, or sport transmission mode, and that further makes the transmission, hang on to higher revs and downshift more aggressively when you're driving hard. In terms of ride, it's not good, with a lot of side-to-side motion, some back and forth motion, but as a reward for dealing with it, you get amazing handling, and this thing feels so good in the front end and the back end. Actually, let me just start with the front end. The front end has this incredible turn in where you turn the wheel and the front just goes just pew, pew. It feels incredibly nimble up front. It's really tied down, on par with my Porsche 911 that I owned back in the day. It's that good. Mid-corner, you can adjust it, you can chuck it in a little bit more. I think this is probably one of the most chuckable cars that I've driven in a very long time. Now the back end is also really good. When you get into a cornering situation that's like pretty aggressive, you feel like it's really balanced. It's really leaning on the front and the rear tires equally. It's carving in like this curve into the ground. And then you're like, okay, I see what you're doing. You're handling this okay. So then you crank in more steering lock. You go wham, even more. What happens then? Well, then the back you start to sense that the back steps out it's on its tiptoes. It's about to step out. And that is so good. I think I like this car's handling characteristics more than the Boxster. I like how the nose tucks in so nicely. A Boxster tends to wash out just a little bit. I think that's the strong suit of this car. The handling is just excellent. The steering rack is really precise. It's sharp. It's responsive. The feel is pretty good. I think the feel that comes through is a lot more natural. It's a lot less artificial than some of the other steering racks that I've dealt with. All right, let's do what convertibles were made to do. Let's put this down and take a cruise down the shoreline here. In a lot of ways, this car represents a return to form for the Z4. The first generation Z4 was a small sporty car, and it was pretty nice to drive, especially compared to the Z3. And then the second generation Z4 looked awesome, but it went a little flaccid. It was not good to drive. So this car is kind of a return to form. It's nice and rigid. It feels nice and solid. It feels chuckable. I need to cool off. So does my iPhone. Overall then, I think this is a good car. It fulfills its purpose quite well as being like the junior member of the Z4 family. Do I think it's worth 53 grand? Well, yeah, I think so. As long as you value what this car brings to the table.
The current generation BMW Z4 is for those who want a car that offers a different mix of qualities from a Boxster. There's less flashiness to the badge, though maybe a bit more flair in the car's design. I prefer the Z4's engine over the Subaru-sounding Turbo 4 in the base 718 Boxster, and the Z4's handling is just more joyful and lighthearted. Compared with the Boxster, you do give up some fit and finish and solidity inside, but you do get more tech. Overall then, the Z4 is an awesome car that knows what it's trying to be, and it does it very, very well. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. I also just bought a new car, so hit subscribe to find out what it is in my upcoming first long-term car review. My name is James, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.